Fall is the perfect time to plant your alliums, and I cannot wait to get these in the ground. And so, guys, we're going to take a look at 5 mistakes to avoid to get the best results from your alliums. My name is Marlene. Welcome to my home and garden channel. So, ornamental alliums belong to the same family as regular onions and garlics and so on. They come usually in shades of purple, pink, and white. And they're typically in growing zones 3 through 10. That's the cold hardiness area for them. As you can see, pollinators like bees love them and deer hate them if you get deer in your area. Now we're going to go ahead and plant some, but let's take a look one by one at the things to avoid. So the first one is not enough sun. So when you're choosing your location, make sure you get an area that gets a lot of sun. And typically that would be 6 or more hours of sunlight per day. And guys, I will have a bonus at the end for you, so be sure to stick around for that. This is my little front garden here in the fall season, and you can see it gets a good amount of sun there. You have to avoid areas like these where you have lots of trees that overhang. Next one is planting at the wrong time. And the ideal time to plant your alliums, your ornamental alliums, would be in the fall season. So when the leaves start looking like that, usually that's a good indicator that it's time to plant them. All these wonderful colors that you see here, which typically, like in October and early November. They do need that cold vernalization period though, so you would not want to wait to plant them too late. So if you plant them like say in late January, that's probably going to be too late for them. So it's best to plant them in the fall. The next point is planting them in soil that is too heavy. So like this heavy clay soil right here. Now my husband is pulling it back just to show you how heavy the soil can be in some areas. This is not good for them at all. So if you're putting them in the ground, you'll want to get like some garden soil. If the soil is heavy like ours is right there, they may be in special or not. The prices vary depending on where you are. And these are not sponsored products, just what we're seeing here at the store. But get that, and you can add in a little bit of compost along with it just to make the soil more light and fluffy so they can survive a little bit better in the flower beds. If you're putting them in containers, then you'll want to get potting mix because the garden soil is going to be too heavy for your containers. So you'll want to go in and get some potting mix for your containers. They just like that light fluffiness and they do so well in it. And you may get, like self-watering cans like those right there, that it's going to drain correctly. But those like these that don't have any holes in the bottom, you'll want to go in and put some holes in there so that they have proper drainage. And some of these are very deep. You don't need to put like your smaller alliums in pots that are deep like those. But of course, your different varieties, you have the giant one. And I think the larger they are, sometimes the more likely they are to give you better results, when you plant them. And so the giant ones, like these right here, those are ideal for deeper pots like those because they do need a little bit more depth to keep them stable when they get bigger. And I'll link some of these in the description box for you where you can get some of those online. So you can have some good results, and do read the reviews, guys. Make sure you do that. Clay pots are a good one too, because they have, they're a little bit more porous. They offer a little bit more drainage. So that is ideal. Just be sure that they have holes in the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and get some planted, and we also take a look at the other things that you will need to avoid. So you can see I have pretty much everything lined out here, getting ready to get started. And usually, a good seller will have listings on there, like it tells you, like how deep to plant them, how tall they're going to get, an average, just to see what you will need to get the best results from your plants. And sometimes you may have to buy them online because, guys, I found that alliums go very quickly. Because I remember last year I went to my garden center, and when I looked, they were all gone. They had lots of other bulbs there, but for some reason there were no alliums there. So you do have the option to buy them online. Again, just do your reviews. The next one is planting them in the wrong direction, in the wrong depth. So you'll want to make sure that you look at your bulb, and the pointy part that's at the top, typically you can tell, you'll want to have that pointing upwards. Before we go any further, guys, I just wanted to take a moment to invite you to subscribe to my channel and to hit the notification bell twice so you never miss an upload. I do lots of gardening topics, tips, and tours, and we have a wonderful community of gardeners here, and I always love to see your sweet comments. And guys, I just want to thank you for the various ways that you support my channel, whether it's by full watching the videos, sharing them with others that love gardening, whether it's by purchasing seasonal merchandise, or your channel membership. That truly means a lot. and put such a great input in what we do on this channel. I hope it has been very helpful to you, and I certainly appreciate you. And thanks for all that you do in advance. All right, guys, so moving along, we're going to go ahead and get this one planted, and you can see we're looking at it there. So little roots at the bottom is a pretty good indicator that you're looking at the bottom of the bulb. They usually correct themselves, but it's better to put less stress on the plant by putting them in the correct direction. So you stick it into the soil and just kind of push it down a little bit, and then you go ahead and cover it over and just pat it in, because typically plants, they like to have contact with the soil. So when you do that, that helps the plant to feel secure and like it's ready to do something. And then I put my mulch on top. And I always recommend putting in mulch because, when it gets colder in the winter, they need to have that extra protection, from the cold that is coming. Maybe it snows in your area or you just get frost, as the case may be. And there are so many different types of mulch that's available. You have cypress, you have brown mulch, you have black mulch. There are so many different ones. So there's lots to choose from. And you just layer it on there, and it also helps to suppress weeds, if any may be coming up, because you have a few, like warmer days left. So that's pretty good and multi-purpose for you to add in your mulch. We're going to go ahead and give it a nice soak here. And again, guys, soil drainage is so important for these plants. So honestly, once you have watered it the first time and then you give it a good soak, then typically you don't need to water them again, and maybe to like another 2 weeks or so. Allow the soil to dry out a little bit. If it rains, of course, you don't need to water them at all, because root rot, or bulb rot, I guess we should say, is kind of an enemy of your alliums because of how they are. Kind of like onions, you don't want to have them soaking and just sitting in water all the time. They really will get mold and they will rot on you. So we really don't want that. Moving along to the next one, and that would be too much nitrogen. And I know it sounds strange, guys, but too much nitrogen for your alliums can actually cause your plants to not do well. Well, meaning you're getting the blooms that you want, because what that means is that it's going to give you nice, healthy, green, fluffy leaves and everything, because nitrogen promotes that a lot. But you also want to get nice blooms from your alliums as well. So the NPK ratio, when you look at it, typically the N is for nitrogen. The first one, that number should be lower than the middle number, or at least the same. So take a look, if you're putting in your, other types of fertilizers on there. So like these, I'll link these in the description box for you, one or two of them, so you can decide which ones you want. And again, read your reviews. But I'll say that typically the mix that they give you works really well for bulbs, because they do bear those things in mind. So just sprinkle a little bit on the soil and you should be good to go as far as, keeping your bulbs nourished. Because if the soil is poor, you'll definitely want to add that in. And now we get to the bonus round, guys. And that is that, your alliums, yes, they do really well, but it's good to plant them with perennials. And typically we recommend planting perennials in the fall, because, they establish a little bit before the ground freezes over, and then they come back up and they already have a head start on the ones you plant in the spring. And there are some lovely ones over here. We have salvia on the left. We have some yarrow, that would be the pink ones right there that you're seeing on the left. We also have coneflowers on the right, and they just do so well. So when the alliums, when the leaves get yellow, because you don't want to cut those on, because you want them to get enough food for the following year. But when you have these plants around them, the space is going to still be beautiful. Of course, you need to deadhead these, like the salvia right there, and they'll come up again. The allium will not until the following year. So these are going to be there, and they're going to be holding down the fort for you and making your garden still look fabulous. These ones right here, these are some Shasta daisies, and they're so beautiful. And these are actually my neighbors, by the way. I did a previous video about these where I showed you, how to care for them and some good choices that you can get for perennials. And I also did a recent video showing you what they have available at the garden center by way of perennials. So be sure to check it out. And in the spring, you can also add in coleus as well too. So I did also mention this in a previous video, or show this in a previous video. I'll link it at the end so you can take a look at all of those tips to help you along the way. And guys, I want to thank you so much for the ways that you support my channel, like I was saying before. And be sure to share this up with those that love gardening as well, gardening topics. And I hope you'll enjoy the garden season in the fall, any time of the year. Enjoy the journey. Thanks so much for watching, and I do hope to see you in the next one. Take care.